Hi everyone, it's Laura. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a wirework tutorial on how to do a woven bail on a gemstone or a pendant or anything that has a drill hole that goes from the front to the back. So as opposed to going all the way through the gemstone or all the way through the bead, this is just like almost like a drill hole from one side to the other. So I'm actually going to be showing you on these beautiful pendants that I got from somebody called Ben Crow. He's got a website, frac-it by the Crazy Crow, but I will put the details down below. He's a very clever person, and basically he created these pendants and he did a process on it called fracking. You can see here it's created these amazing markings, and I've got a couple of them here. These are how they arrived. These are the plain wood, and they are obviously, he's drilled them for me at the top here, and they are, then I'm going to be doing a bail on these pendants. I have also got like a wooden cabochon here, which I was thinking of doing a demonstration of a tree of life on. Thought that might be quite nice with the way that the markings are on this one. Is that something you'd like to see? Let me know. And I've got one here that I've already done, again, of the cabochon. This is a double-sided one, but I love these markings. I just think they're incredible. This one I've actually embellished with some pastels, which are I actually bought them when I did some Polymania, which is just like a massive polymer clay event that happens in Bristol. It's a brilliant event, and I've got about 5 of them because they are very expensive. And I've just placed them on and then just put a sort of a polish, a wood varnish almost over the top of it to protect it so that none of the colour will come off, and I think that just really just brings them to life. But you don't have to, you can keep them plain if you want to. So I've got one here that I haven't actually done yet. I'm going to do a bail on this one as well. This is like a coppery toned one, but the actual piece that I'm going to show you is this one right here. Now on this one I actually tried to have a little play about with some alcohol inks and also the pastels, but I found that the alcohol inks kind of bled a little bit. So you can see on the back the wood just kind of absorbed them, and it didn't mix out as nicely as I wanted it to. I found that it was a little bit harsher than I wanted. I wanted it to be a smoother, more blended effect. So I then went over it again with some pastels. But that's where the sort of purples, and the green, as you can see down the edge here, that's from like the alcohol inks itself. So it did stain the wood nicely, but I wanted to give that nice blended shimmery effect. So again, I went with the pastels and I sealed it. So I'm actually going to show you how to make this particular pendant here. We go through the process, we go through sort of how we make the decisions as to where those wires go. I'm just going to show you the whole piece. There we go. Just there. And so I'm going to take you through step by step how to create this pendant. Hope you like the project, and let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. The materials that I've got are of course my beautiful pendant. I've got some 1mm bare copper wire, and I've got some 0.315 bare copper wire to do my weaving with. So you don't need a lot of tools for this project. I've got my chain nose pliers, my flush cutters, my bail making pliers. These are optional, but I really love using these, and my round nose pliers. I've gone ahead and cut 2 lengths of my 1mm wire. I've got one length of wire that's about 20 centimeters, and the other one which is about 30. I'm going to take the longer length and I'm going to just bring the 2 ends together so that I can find the middle. I'm just going to bring this into a point, take my chain nose pliers and pinch this into a nice, so I'm just holding that nice and steady, pinch that into a nice tight little, almost like a little U shape. So it's looking like that, and then just open the wires out slightly, and that is going to place over the front and over that initial drill hole on your pendant. I've gone ahead and made that V. I'm going to pop that to one side a moment, and I'm going to take my pendant and I'm going to take the other piece of wire, pop it into that drill hole, bring the 2 wires up again, so around about the middle, and bring that up. Okay, so we're looking like that. Take your piece of wire that we formed that V on, and I'm going to place that just in front. So sorry about that noise, that's Savannah. She's having a little snore. She is sound asleep on my studio floor. So if I place it, obviously I'm just placing it at the moment, but it's going to sit just like that, and we're going to start to do some weaving and lock that in together. And I've just taken the back piece of wire and I'm just bringing that, so I'm just taking the back piece of wire and I'm just bringing that down for the moment, because I don't actually need that at this point. I'm just going to wrap that around the bottom of the pendant. I actually quite like that. Just going to wrap that around the pendant there, so that's just coming down across the back, and then what it's done is locked that middle wire nice and securely for me, so that's not going to go anywhere. And then when I place this wire just on here and start my weaving, that's just going to give me my 3 wires to create my bail with. So I've gone ahead and cut a workable length on my 0.315 copper wire, and I'm just going to come to the end of one of the V's just here, and I'm just going to create a little tiny coil that I'm going to slide down to this bend in a moment. And I'm doing this here because I've got all this space here, I'm not fighting with any wires, and this will just slide down, so this just makes it a little bit easier. So you may have to just open that bend slightly out to encourage that coil to go over. You can see that's just gone over there, and then you can just refold that very gently back up. Okay, take your pliers if you need to just get that shape back, and you'll see that that is in place. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is place this back onto my pendant. I've got my wire here, and I'm going to do a figure of 8 weave, and I'm going to incorporate this middle wire here. So I'll explain what I mean. So my wires are sort of fanning out just now, so the weaving wire is in the middle and it's coming towards me, so I'm going to wrap around this middle wire now all the way around. It's going to be a bit tricky just to get it started, but as soon as it's established it'll be really easy. The wire is now, again, can you see it's sort of facing over the top, so I want it to come into the middle of these 2 wires and then wrap this wire. So I'm going to do that again. Sorry, I'm going to wrap that wire 3 times. I'm going to do that again, but what I'm going to do is just label these wires 1, 2 and 3, just to make it a bit easier to understand what I'm saying. So the wire is at the back now and it's in between 1 and 2. So I'm going to bring it all the way around that middle wire, number 2, and then bring it back up so it's now in the middle of 2 and 3. And then I'm going to take it over the top of the 3rd wire and wrap 1, 2, 3 times. Check it all, give it a little scoot. If I let that go, you can see it has attached. So keep checking these wires don't go out of shape. The wire is again towards me and it's in between 2 and 3. So I'm going to bring it over so it's now technically in between 1 and 2, and it's going to wrap that middle wire and then go back into the middle where it came from. And it's going to wrap 3 times around wire number 1. 1, 2, 3. So it's facing away again. So I'm going to bring it over and in between the opposite 2 wires so that it now wraps that middle wire again. And then 1, 2, 3. So it is a figure of 8 weave, but every time we just wrap this middle wire before we go to the next side. So instead of just going over and under towards the outer wires, we just catch and wrap this one. So the wire's in front, so I'm just going to wrap that middle wire, bring it back around, and then go 1, 2, 3. The wire's behind, so wrap around that middle wire and back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and just done a little section, just trying to make sure that this middle wire doesn't pull too much towards either of the outer wires, otherwise then it's going to look a little bit off center. So you can see we've gotten to this point, and obviously this is quite a wide depth that we've got to kind of go over, so we need to factor that in. So I don't want this to be too high a bail, and now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm just going to come in and bend these outer wires into a diamond shape, and then I'm going to just gently encourage those wires to come back out so that the wires are all open again. Now you can see this side's going more curved than this side, so I do need to make sure that they stay equal. So just come back in, okay, and tweak that so you've got it looking like that. All your wires should still be open here, so there shouldn't be any crossed over. And what I tend to do, as you can see, is I bend these outer wires into a different direction. That way I can easily see where my wire is meant to go. And can you see how easy it is for me to bring the wire in between? So my weaving wire is easier to control, and I'm not fighting these lengths of wire either. Now I'm going to continue with the exact same pattern for the opposite side, but what happens when you're doing this is, because you're going into a downward sort of V almost, the wires will try and skip down a little bit. So I'm just going to explain how I kind of deal with that. What I tend to do is just relax my weave a tiny bit more. So I don't pull my weave really tight as it is. I just let it sort of naturally stop. As you can see, I'm not putting too much tension. Give it a little scoot down. Going 1, 2, 3, and then over to the other side. Now what will happen is it will try and jump. So what I want to do is just be even more, slightly more relaxed. I'm trying to think of the right way of saying this. So when I get to this, what I'm going to do is really be quite relaxed with that rotation over to the other side. But I'm also, if you see, I'm placing my finger just here. I'm stopping that wire from trying to skip, because when I go over to the other side is when it'll pull down. So I'm just controlling it a little bit more. So 1, 2, 3. So it's just about trying to make sure you control it and don't let it skip. Just keep control of where that wire wants to go, so you can see. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off. If you find you run out of wire, I mean, you can see it's a bit annoying because I'm so close towards the end of this section, but that's fine. I've wrapped 3 times on this side, and now I'm going to take a new piece of wire, come over to the opposite side, 1, 2 and 3, tiny little tail there, which I'll cut in a moment, and just pick your pattern back up. That will help it to stay balanced. Do a couple more rotations. When you feel it's established, that's when you can cut the new little tail wire off. So I've gone ahead and I've just completed that weave. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take my bail making pliers, or you can use anything as long as it's a solid tube as such and it's not going to crumple. And I'm going to place that just into the middle on the larger side, and I'm just going to fold this over so I can get an idea exactly of how it's going to look. Just turn my hand slightly so I'm happy with that, and we can see it's looking like that. If I take my pliers out, it's pretty much where I want it to go. Okay, now just open out those wires, and I'm going to unwrap the wire from the back. You can use wire straighteners or nylon pliers to straighten that wire out if you want to, where you wrapped it. You can just run your hands along it. This wire is quite key because obviously it's going to help keep it locked in. And this is what we're looking like from the front, and this is from the back. So I've got two separate ones here and the two together here. Now what I'm going to do is just from my nails, you can run your pliers or your nails, and I'm just going to really define that weave. You see how that instantly gives it a completely different look. It's got a bit of movement, so that's good. It means that there's movement there, it's not too tight. So what I'm going to do now is I've just taken the wire that was coming through the drill hole and I've actually unwrapped it and brought it back up, so it's going to go back over the bail. Then the other middle wire, which would be effectively the same wire, I'm going to bend that nice and sharply so it goes up. Can you see what I'm saying? So the two wires here are the outer wires from the bail. So I've still got my weaving wire because I added some right towards the end, but if you haven't, then you can just take a new piece and attach it. And I'm going to do another weave just here. Now, you don't have to do this. I just think it's going to be pretty. So I'm going to bring the wire around a couple of times just so that it meets this wire here. So I'm just wrapping it a couple of times. So you can see it's now ready to start a weave. So the weave that I'm going to do is going to just be one of my favourites. I think it's called the basket weave. Kick these two wires out so I can see exactly what I'm doing. But basically go across both those wires, around that bottom wire, across the back, and around that top wire. Down the front, around that bottom wire, across the back, and around that top wire. And what I'm doing is I'm just wrapping the bottom and top wires, but every time I just bring that wire across both the wires. So it never actually goes all the way around both the wires, it just goes across the front or across the back. Give it a little scoop to make sure it's sitting how you want it to sit. And you can lift it slightly away from the bail itself if you're finding it a bit fiddly. So I've gotten to this point, and what I sometimes like to do, it's just a little tip, you don't have to, but I'm actually going to be placing this over that middle wire. So what I'm going to do is on my next rotation is come down in between the weave. So effectively what I want to do is stitch this to that middle section. So I brought that down and I'm just going to feed it back up the opposite side. You only need to do that once, but that effectively has stitched that now. And then I can just continue with the weave down to here. Also, just to show you, if you're struggling on a way to actually hold this while you're weaving, you can see I'm holding it by putting my finger inside the bail, keeping it all nice and flat, lifting this very slightly from the bail and splitting out the end of the wire, and then I'm able to just do the rotation. Okay, I actually really like this little detail here. So I've stopped the weaving probably about a centimetre before I get to that point, and then just gently open those wires out so you get that kind of effect. And what I want to do is just bring them around the top of the actual pendant itself, one that's going to stabilise it, and I just think it's a really nice additional detail. Now remember, we also have these wires at the back, so I can actually do the same process on the back of the pendant. So opening them out, I've opened them so they're actually going across the top, and these ones are coming from the bottom, and I'm going to bring these around as well. So I'm just doing this at the moment just because I want to position these wires and get an idea of where we're going. So that's it from the front and that's it from the back. So at the moment I've just brought the wires around and I'm doing this purely to lock them into place. Okay, I will finish them off in a moment, but I just wanted to lock them into place. So I'm going to take these wires here and I want to, so I'm going to feed the wires that we brought from the back around the front under the weave we've just done. And I'm going to do that with both wires. So just feed that through there. Use your pliers if you need to, just to get that nice and where you want it to go. So it's starting to look like this. These wires, just make sure you place them as you want them to go. I'm then going to bring them back up again and into part of that bail. And if you look here, you can see one's higher than the other, so I'm going to take a moment just to get them aligned exactly as I want them to be aligned, which means just not pulling them too tight and bending them around, bending it around. Just take that moment to have it sitting exactly as you want it to sit. Don't be afraid to use your pliers. Just be nice and gentle with them. So it's starting to take shape. Obviously I've still got these wires here, so what I want to do now is I need to get rid of the tail wires. So if I take these off from the back, you can see that's what it will look like from the front. Okay. So I've gone ahead and I just cut the wires slightly shorter. I've just crossed them over, as you can see. What I want to do is just tuck them away. So I'm going to bring it up and get it to just hook over the top wire. As you can see just there, gently encourage that into a little bit of a flatten. That's locking it into there. Same on the opposite side. So just want it to come over. You can lift it a bit with your pliers if you need to. Bring that down. Just like that. And then again just pinch that together. And then I'm just going to, keeping my pliers nice and closed, just gently flatten all of that at the back. So it looks neat and obviously you're not pulling at the wires or just, you know, deforming them in any way. And obviously remember, go back to check everything and make sure it's all still sitting as you wanted it to sit. So I'm now left with two more wires to get rid of, which are these two here. Now don't be afraid, if you wanted to use your wires a little bit longer, you could bring them down and wrap it around here if you wanted to, and decorate the pendant in a little bit more way with the wire. I mean, there's nothing to say you don't take a new piece of wire and do that if you want to. I just wanted this to be about the bail. Then going to take this last piece here, trim it, and just kind of twist it so it goes around like that. Okay, so after a bit of umming and ahhing, I've undone that, trimmed it, and I'm going to bring this into a little tiny loop just to the back here as well. To really make sure there's no sharp edges. And just really locking them into place. There's no sharp edges there. That's locked that into place at the back. That's it from the front. It's nice and solid. I definitely like the idea of exploring bringing that wire all the way down. What I would do is just make sure I had enough wire that would come all the way around, and maybe a little tiny swirl at the front here, or would come back to the back and a tiny little loop just to lock it. But you know what, I'm happy with this finish. I think it's really pretty. The whole piece is set, and as you can see, that is a different way to do a woven bail for a top drilled cabochon. In this case, a wooden pendant, which I have embellished with some pan pastels, and I have obviously sealed this with a wood sealant. So these colours are not, you can see I've been handling this pendant the whole way through. My hands have got no colour transfer on them. It's been sealed. It's had this amazing frac process done by the very clever Ben Crow. So yeah, I really love how this one turned out. What do you think? This would work on any gemstone or any bead or anything that has a forward front facing drill hole. I really hope you like this project, and I really love it if you have a go. If you do, let me know, tag me down below. If you like this video, you know, please give me a thumbs up. I'd love it if you could subscribe, and as always, I hope you have a great day.